A very good day to you all. I am Dr. Larry T. Crudup, the pastor of Mount Moriah Baptist Church of Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I want to welcome you to our Community Conversations series. This series endeavors to provide conversations that inform, inspire, and empower you for success. During this series, we will cover an array of topics. This month, we will converse with Dr. Paulette Porter Hallman and Dr. Gary Jordan as they talk with us about grief. I'm sure that most, if not all of us, have lost someone that was dear to us, especially during COVID. To be honest, even people that we barely know who pass away can bring about grief. Celebrities that we have followed through their career, or a thought leader that inspired you. Grief shows up in surprising ways, but it can be managed and you can find support. So stop, watch, and listen as we discuss grief. We hope that these conversations will help you in some way. Don't forget to like this video, share this video, and comment in the comment section below. Also follow us here on Facebook and on YouTube for more soul-feeding content. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to Community Conversations. I am Jean McIver, your facilitator. We will have virtual conversations that will inspire, inform, and empower you for success. And today, we will be discussing acceptance and integration and what it looks like. We have the experts here. Okay, we have professionals who are our sisters and brothers in Christ. We have Reverend Dr. Paulette Porter Hallman and Reverend Dr. Gary Jordan. And we are going to allow them a few minutes to go ahead and introduce themselves before we jump into the session. Please, Sister Paulette.
Hello, my name is Paulette Porter Hallman. I am currently a hospice chaplain, and I'm also one of the associate ministers here at Mount Moriah Baptist Church. I have a degree in a Doctor of Ministry degree from Gardner-Webb University, and I am also the wife of James and the mother of 3 lovely children and 5 even lovelier grandchildren.
And I am Gary Jordan. I am also an associate minister here at Mount Moriah Baptist Church. I have been a chaplain for the past 13 years. I have an earned doctorate degree from Gardner-Webb University in pastoral care and counseling. I'm also a part of the spiritual counseling ministry here at the church. And I am married to Kimberly Jordan, and together we have 2 sons.
Thank you both. We have enjoyed every session with you all, and we look forward to this one as well. And community, in case you have missed any of the previous sessions, please go to the website and review the sessions. They have been so informative. They have given us so much from each session. And I am just going to share with you the previous sessions, what the titles were. Defining Grief, Session 1. Ways to Cope with Grief, Session 2. Helping Others Who Grieve, Session 3. And today, the session is on acceptance and integration. So we will now go ahead and jump in with question number 1. What does acceptance and or integration look like? And there's a second part. Does this mean that I forget about my loved one?
And of course, we remember that acceptance is another one of the stages of grief. And a lot of people have a misconception over what acceptance really is. That's why the second part of the question comes in, because then people say, if I accept it, does that mean I forget about my loved one? And that's an absolute answer is no. You don't ever forget about your loved one. But I would like to give a further explanation on what this acceptance and integration terminology means. And I'm going to give you the definition, and it says uh, integration, acceptance. Integration mostly is the enduring residual form of grief in which the reality and meaning of the death are gradually understood and the bereaved person is able to move forward. But it's not all about finding meaning in the death. What it is about is finding meaning in the deceased life and in knowing how they shaped us, maybe in how the way that they died can help us to make the world safer for others. That's how we integrate this meaning of their life and not just trying to find the meaning of death. And that's what we spend a lot of time trying to do is trying to find out why. We ask those questions why, and we won't ever have the answers to those kind of questions, but we can.
And I gave an example of that in one of our prior sessions with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, how they turned a tragedy into a meaningful work and trying to keep others, save other lives in the future from having to mourn a death caused by a drunk driver.
So that way we find meaning in their life, and that meaning we carry on through the rest of our lives. And so that's integrating that into our lives as we move forward and learning. The other part of this acceptance is learning to remember those who have died with more than pain, which involves learning to move forward in a way that honors the loved one. And should not have to be just a painful experience all the time. It is how those who are still alive can integrate the existence of the lost individual into their lives in a very positive and productive way. Finding meaning is the stage where the healing often resides. So acceptance definitely does not mean wiping out the memory. We don't want to do that. We want to remember. And I'll use Rick Warren again. He has a series on how to get through what you're going through, and he defines acceptance as knowing that you can't change it and moving forward with a new reality. Knowing that you can't change it and moving through it forward with a new reality. Sounds like a spiritual surrender to me, but when we use the word surrender, it often is in a negative connotation. But when we spiritually surrender, we're surrendering to God, and we know that that's a positive surrender. And we're going to lean on not our understanding of how things go, but we're going to lean on Him leading us and guiding us through the experience. There's a scripture in Galatians 2:20 says, I've been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me. James 4:7 says, surrender yourselves, therefore, to God. So that's what I wanted to share.
And just kind of say a few more things. As far as acceptance and integration, it means being able to begin rebuilding your life, and you're able to live with the emotional pain of your loss. So being able to rebuild your life, but also living with the pain of the loss. And if you having what we call a healthy grief, and that means that pain is the pain is starting to lessen. It's not going to be still as painful as it was in the beginning. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily okay with what happened, especially in the case of a trauma, or a shooting or something like that. It doesn't mean you're necessarily okay with that happened, because that's still a tragedy. But you're able to accept and build a new life, and you're able to manage that pain that comes with it. I always refer to something called a new normal, and that's what it is. You have a new normal. I mean, your old normal was your life with that person or whatever, that job or whatever that thing that you did have. The new normal is now your life without that. And so you make your adjustments to your new normal. And I listened to Rick Warren myself this morning, and I want to share a quote that he said. He says, "I don't have to stop mourning
That's
to
right.
start moving.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
I don't have to stop mourning to stop moving." We can do both at the same time.
Absolutely.
So we can be productive, we can go forward in our lives, but we can still mourn the loss of that person or those persons. And again, we just come on this side of COVID-19, where you had several family members that died close together, and you didn't get a chance to mourn one before you lost another one. But still, you're moving forward. But those deaths are still there with you.
Mhm.
And I was just informed recently about someone in the lower part of the state that had 6 family members that was burned up in the
Oh my
fire.
goodness.
6.
Hmm. And
That's a lot.
So, like what you all are saying,
It's a lot of pain. It's going to be a
a lot of pain.
lot of pain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can just remember just the pain from losing my dad, and I didn't think I would ever feel any different because it hurt so bad, and my mom too. And just doing the work that I do and having to talk with other people, I have to talk to myself too. And I never thought I'd feel any different. And I think a lot of people feel like that. They're never going to get past the pain, but with doing the work that we're talking about, because it's work, and doing the work and having a healthy kind of grieving journey, I can actually, when I think about my mom and my dad, I'll think of something that makes me smile. That doesn't mean I don't still miss them, but that pain has subsided, the pain that I thought would never go away. And we want to encourage people that, with help, um, they can do the same thing.
Mhm.
They can do the same thing.
And as we think about this acceptance and integrations, some of the characteristics of what that may look like, um, feeling positive and hopeful.
Mhm.
And I don't think we really emphasize this word hope enough throughout this series. But hope is something that it's what keeps motivating us to keep going forward, because hope is before us, and the thing that we're mourning is what was behind us. And so if we can have that positive and that positivity and that hopefulness in our lives, that's the characteristics of acceptance. Also seeking out new meaning, and I kind of touched on that earlier when I said about the new normal, but now you have a new meaning that you're working toward us in your life. Feeling secured and relaxed, and that's a big thing, because when you're going through those stages of grief, you don't have that security and that relaxed feeling. You don't, because there's so many unknowns that you're concerned about. And not saying that you got all the answers when you get to the acceptance phase, because you don't. But there's a feeling that you can have that I can rest in the unknown. I can rest without having all the answers. I can rest and be relaxed and be secured in knowing all that without knowing all this. And so that's and the last one I want to just mention is, well, last two. One is engaging the reality. And so again, it's the reality of what happened, that loss. And some people use different words, but it's okay to say that person died. And sometimes they have trouble even saying, that person died. But engaging the reality. And then the last one is just making sure that you're taking care of yourself. Taking care of yourself and having self-compassion, not beating yourself up anymore.
and I have a question because you just made the comment about people have a hard time when that person died or transition or whatever. Should we listen to what the individual is saying and use that same terminology that they are using, or should we say something different? I'm just asking because I know we're supposed to be listening to
Mhm.
them,
We are.
okay, and just being there for them. But I just wanted you to expound on that for me.
I have a friend who had that problem, and so in order to honor her wishes, because I wanted her to be able to accept it quicker than she was willing, but she needed time, and one of the things that we had in the last session, you have to be patient. You have to give yourself some grace too. So we have to give them grace too. And I think it doesn't hurt us to go along with what helps them for that time gradually, because today she's able to say that, but then she was not able to. So I think that it doesn't necessarily hurt to go along with what helps them for that time period. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the fact is, we both know, and I'm saying when I say we both, I said me and the person that I'm talking with, we know that what happened.
Right.
So you don't have to keep saying what happened.
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
a lot of times it's not even necessary to mention
Right.
whatever. But the fact is that you're present there, you're supporting them, in the way you can.
Thank you. The next thing I would like to ask, should I feel guilty moving forward in my life? Does it dishonor my loved one who has died?
No. Okay.
Absolutely not. and one of the scriptures that I put down here was what Gary just mentioned about hope. There's a difference in those of us who are believers. We agree with hope. Now, for those who are not believers, that's a whole different consideration. But because we hope, um, we don't have to feel guilty. Um, we should look upon it as an opportunity. You can't do it in that moment, but gradually, it's that new norm that Gary talked about. Is that there's a new reality that we're creating without the physical presence of the person. I I still think in my mind what my mother would say to me. Oh goodness, mama would say. So I have a spiritual relationship with her, and it's not crazy to think that kind of stuff because she's a very real part of my life still. And there's a playwright by the name of Robert Anderson who said, "Death ends a life, not a relationship."
Mm-hmm.
We are still able to incorporate our loved ones' memories, values, and passion into the remainder of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the death of the relationship. It was the life that ended, but not the relationship should never end. So we get to be encouraged in that, and I see it also not as a time that you should not move forward, but it may be a good time to review your belief system. What do you believe? What do you believe in? Your spiritual beliefs. And there's a question that goes along with this that I thought was pretty profound. It says, what do you choose to believe about your life
Mm-hmm.
and your future? We choose faith, we choose our mates, we choose all kind of things. We make choices about a lot of very important things. And so we get to choose to move forward. It's not as black and white as that. We need help, and we certainly rely on God and all the other resources that we've talked about. But we can consciously make a decision to choose to move forward and not have to feel that guilt about moving forward, because it's very real. Because you feel like, oh gosh, I've lost my loved one, and I shouldn't be feeling good. I shouldn't be happy. They're gone, and I just don't think that's from God. I think that that's the enemy trying to get us stuck in a place that we don't need to be. And so we just want to encourage people that God doesn't put those kind of feelings. We want the positiveness that Gary talked about is positivity, is hope, and God still wants to use us.
Mhm.
So he certainly wants us to look forward to a future with him.
So your question was really a two-parter, and the first one about, I think you said, should I feel guilty?
Right.
Mhm.
Um, it's not whether or not should you feel guilty, it's do you feel guilty? And so if you're feeling guilty, you want to address that. Why are you feeling guilty? And come to realize that you're not that powerful.
Okay.
That you really can't, there's only so much you can control,
Mhm.
and things are going to happen. But you really have to deal with that for yourself, that feeling of guilt. The second part of your question was,
Am I dishonoring?
am I
Mhm.
dishonoring?
Mhm.
So I don't feel like you're dishonoring someone you love. And when you love someone, you want the best for them.
Mhm.
And that person wants the best for you.
Mhm.
So in the case of that person now being deceased, why would they stop wanting the best for you? And so that's my rationalization for
Okay.
that. I would think that they still want the best for you.
Mhm.
And that, like we have already established, that your relationship with the person that's deceased, that has changed. So you still want to find fulfillment and meaning in your life because you're still living. And so it's not a dishonoring that person. In reality, that person is still with us. As Paulette said so eloquently earlier, the relationship is what's changed. I want to share a quote that a coworker shared with me that I love, and I use it today. And it says, "Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near. Still loved, still missed, forever dear."
Mhm.
And I think that speaks
Mhm.
powerfully to
Mhm.
those that we love, but that we have lost.
And one last thing about guilt, because it's almost a natural reflex when we lose somebody. What could we have done? I think I I think I mentioned that in the last section, the guilt. Why people grieve so hard, and it's very sometimes irrational, and a lot of times people who are grieving are not in a point where you can redirect them. And so we really have to have patience with people because they're not going to say, "Oh, okay, well, I won't feel guilty anymore," because it lingers, and I can relate to it. But God helps us through all of these things that we're talking about. He helps that grief, guilt to subside because it's very real,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's very hard to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only guilt about what you could have done, but things that people didn't do for their family members. Oh, I wish I had, done this. I wish I had spent more time. Things you can absolutely not change,
Right.
and just helping them to work through those kind of irrational. It's not irrational to them,
Right.
but because we can't change it, we just have to have a lot more patience with people that we're trying to help to get to this point of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one last question. How can I find out if my grieving is healthy or unhealthy?
Mhm.
Healthy, unhealthy.
I think we need to kind of go back to when we talked about coping. I think that was
Mhm.
session 2, and looking at our active versus avoiding type coping. So if my grieving is healthy or unhealthy, if my grieving is healthy, then I'm doing things that address the source of my emotional distress or my physical distress. If I'm if it's unhealthy, then I'm doing those things that kind of just distract me, take my mind off of it, or suppress. So that's my general answer, and I'll let Paulette give us some more details, and I'll jump back in.
Yes. Yes, and you know, the biggest help that we can provide to ourselves is to take an honest look at how we grieve. We've got to be honest with ourselves because you know how we were talking about how we mask things, and most of the times when you mask them, you're only fooling yourself because other people have an idea of what's going on. We don't know how the person feels, but we do have an idea. So you got to be honest with yourself about how and if you're grieving, you know, and if you take an honest look at yourself, you might see some things that you need to address. If there's continual denying of the loss, you know, it should be a short-lived stage, you know, denial. But if it's just lingering, then you know you're on maybe on the road to unhealthy grief. And when we turn to some of those other alternatives like alcohol, substance abuse, I'll just lop it into one. Substance abuse, then we're really trying to cover it up. You know, we're trying to put a band-aid on it, you know, but it doesn't heal it. We all know that a lot of people isolate, socially isolate, and I believe in having your space. I like having my space, but it can get to an extreme where you just really never want to be around anybody. And you make excuses, you know, you always find a way to get out of being with people. Um, intense sorrow, intense pain, that pain that I was telling you that subsides gradually, however gradual that is for you. Um, Focusing on very little else other than the death or the loss, whatever that loss is. Um, a lot of the times we have so many triggers. You know, these triggers, they hit us practically every day. Something reminds us. But when we just get kind of stuck in just letting those triggers affect us too much, we may be start to get concerned about our whether grief is healthy or not. Sometimes we avoid the triggers. That could be even worse. So there's sometimes we talked about the numbness, you know, and the detachment, that continued bitterness. Just continue, you know, you just don't ever get up, you know, just bitter. You're mad at whoever, you know. And the one that I'm more concerned with, I think, than any is that feeling that life holds no longer holds any meaning or purpose. A lot of people, you know, they really start to feel that way, and that's when we want to catch people before they get to these unhealthy things that they're experiencing, and you're not even able to enjoy anything about life or think about even the positive experiences with that person. So these are just some triggers that we want people to just kind of look out for as they are on their grief journey. It's a journey.
Just kind of last thing, just kind of making sure that you're taking care of yourself. If you're, you know, trying to eat, you know, properly, sleeping, getting your rest, exercise, even if it's just walking or just stretching. I mean, it's nothing you have to join the wire or anything necessarily, but just get them moving and take the time to relax as well. Get some fresh air.
Okay, community. We have been informed again with so much. I mean, these are jewels, these are nuggets for us to use in our daily lives as we talk to other people, encourage other people, and also encourage ourselves. They have given us scripture, they have told us how to rebuild our life and how to manage our life, having a new normal, feeling positive and hopeful, moving forward, the choices we make, our belief system, our relationships, and also giving us information from other books all of this is going to be there for you on the website because I was unable to write down everything. So I will need to go back and look over everything that has been said tonight to help me on my journey with grief and also with friends and family with grief.
A couple other things.
Yes, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. I
Go
didn't mean to
ahead.
cut you
No,
off.
no,
but
no. Go
you're on a
ahead.
good roll.
No,
But
go
I
ahead.
want to add two more things.
Okay.
And I think this may air during the month of August. But in the month of August, August 30th is Grief Awareness Day.
Okay.
And some people recognize it as the whole week. But grief awareness. And so if you have not been able to acknowledge your grief at any other time, take that day to just acknowledge your grief, what you've been grieving, and share it with someone that you trust and that will listen to you. And then also the following month, September, is Suicide Prevention Month. And so just be aware of those people around you. And again, there's a new crisis line that was established last year, 988, which is suicide and
Mental illness.
and suicide and crisis lifeline. And they deal with suicide and mental illness. And so those are two other resources that I came across that I want to make sure that I want to bring to our attention.
And what is that number again?
988.
988. And thank you so much for that, Brother Gary. Now, at this time, we would like to thank you both on behalf of the pastor, Dr. Larry T. Crudup, the church family here at Mount Moriah Baptist Church, and the community for everything you have shared, everything you have given us so that we can move forward. And we do greatly appreciate you. And community, please go to the website. Please use the QR code. All of the information that they have provided will be there. We thank you so much. He even told us about 988, that hotline. We also have the other hotline that you will be able to use. And if I'm not mistaken, because I will forget,
211.
211. Okay, and you can call them 24/7. You can text HELP, HELP, at 211, and you can go to sc.org, which is the website. And we always want to continue to inform, inspire, and empower you for success. And Brother Gary does not know that I'm going to do this, but I would like for you to read that quote or that poem again as our closing out.
You should have told me sooner.
I'm sorry. It has to do with
So,
the love
I know what you-
that does not go away.
Yeah. Okay. So those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day. Unseen, unheard, but always near. Still loved, still missed, and forever dear.
Thank you, community. And until the next time, be blessed.
We hope that this community conversation has been informative, inspiring, and empowering. If it has, we ask that you please like, share, and comment on this video. We also invite you to like and follow our Facebook and YouTube channels for more soul-feeding content. We'll see you next time for our community conversation.